There we go, we're live.
We're live.
Hello, everyone. It's been a while, I think 2 years since we did the last one.
Probably, yep.
Yeah, I looked, it surprised me because I thought it was last year. So evidently we've lost a year in the in the process of just building stuff. A year has vanished, but it'd be nice to do these a little bit more often, but it's only, I think, only useful when we've got stuff to talk about.
Yep.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll have a bit at the end where we have some time to go through and answer anything that you ask. We'll try our best to be forthright and candid with you as much as we can be. So the goal of today, two things, is number one, to show the Visual Studio extension that we've been working on. So it's in preview. It's been with a select few customers for a little while. We've tested it with the core team as well. Let's show you what's new there, talk about how we're going to release it, and then start the discussion around V12 and what we're thinking there, and then open the floor to questions. With Visual Studio, some kind of background on it. So I think you built the first version, 8 years ago, 2017, it was released.
Really, it was that late? No, I think it must. I think we had something earlier than that. I think we had something.
Did you perhaps? Because I was looking on the Visual Studio Marketplace, and maybe we had one before the 2019.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think with the first version, probably for Visual Studio 2015.
So the download numbers are going to be even better than what I thought. So it's almost 300,000 downloads today of the current extension, with the lion's share of those occurring in Visual Studio 2022. But that's, I mean, it's not had a huge amount of love, I don't think. I think that's a fair statement.
It's not had a huge amount of love. We're hoping to change that.
Yes. So the current extension, it's got ZAML completions, and then it can do event handlers, and that's basically it, right?
It can add event handlers, ZAML completions. Probably got a few other features. It's got a few code fixes for missing like namespace prefixes, a couple of other things. But one of the main limitations of it is that it was based on a really hacked together in the early days by Nikita ZAML parser, which was basically just an XML parser. And I think Nikita wrote it in a couple of days, and we'd just been moving forward with that. So one of the main things to improve was our the ZAML design time parser. So I've been working on for a while on a new ZAML parser that's kind of like a Roslyn model, where it's immutable and updated on every keystroke pretty much, and uses kind of a red-green tree, is it? Yeah, red-green tree type approach, like Roslyn. And it also integrates with Roslyn for the type information, rather than before, I think we were using dnlib or something, because we wrote it all before Roslyn was even a thing.
So that's been a kind of file new project, starting from scratch approach.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that comes from, originally it started because we were working on our drag and drop visual designer?
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's implemented as a library apart from Visual Studio, which will hopefully allow us in future to use it in our drag and drop designer, should we want to, and also hopefully create a language server for using Visual Studio Code, VS Code, be able to use in VS Code, so you get the same kind of XAML editing experience in VS Code as well.
Nice. So the version that we have today is the early preview. I think is probably the right way to describe it.
Yes, let's pray the demo gods smile on us, because this is built about 20 minutes ago. So
okay. Well, let's cross our fingers. Shall I add your screen?
Yeah, why not? Here we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see the screen there. So I guess the first thing to really talk about is that we're no longer using the colors from the current or previous XAML editor, because that was based on XML. So we were using the XML language service to color everything. That was useful. It meant less work for us, but there were certain places where XML and XAML clashed, like we were using tab spacing from the XML service, but people were complaining that they set the XAML tab spacing and it's not the same and stuff like that. So you can see that the colors are slightly different. These aren't the final colors. These are just using C# colors for the moment. They are a placeholder. So I think that's the first thing you'll notice. The second thing, hopefully, is we now have quick info. You can't see that on my screen because it's a separate window. 1 second. I'm going to need to share my whole screen rather than just the studio window.
The joys of pop-ups.
Exactly. 1 second. Be right back.
So I think Bunny's just shared in the chat that Visual Studio have just announced a preview in the MVP channel.
Oh, okay.
So we may have some more work to do.
I guess we'll be training on that now.
Yeah.
Yes. If I hover over? Yes, I think you can see. If you want to share the screen again, hopefully people will be able to see what's happening. So the first thing, it's a small thing, but when you hover over a type, for example, or a property, you can see the definition of the property and the documentation for the property. Very small thing, but we did not have that before. I think the next thing to demonstrate would be the completion stack panel. You will see that we now use the same completion as C#, where you can kind of type the first few characters of each word and it will filter based on that. Previously, we didn't have that feature. So let's put the stack panel in there. And then you will see that if we set a property, you also get here help and 1 second. Help and the definition of the property here. Again, small things that you'll be used to using another language, but we just did not have before. Another thing that you may have noticed in previous XAML engines, no. Okay. We seem to have lost syntax highlighting here. There's the first demo god not smiling on us thing. Previously, in an incredible show of technological advancement, you could only be shown one error per XAML file. We are now able to actually show multiple errors.
So that means that when you previously, when you had you copied and pasted your WPF code in there, and you might be trying to manually migrate it to Avalonia, you would just see one error.
You'd fix that error, the next error would show. And also the errors were dependent on the previewer working as well. Now they're not dependent on the previewer working. For example, we have invalid markup here, but you can still see that errors are still appearing without the preview.
That's a very nice quality of life addition.
Yes. I mean, it's real basic stuff, but it's stuff that we didn't have before, just due to the complete lack of time and lack of time to spend on the previous version, and the ZAML parser, particularly the design time and ZAML parser. So what shall we show next? Oh yes, so one thing that you can now do, you can say x data type equals main view model. If you click this, it will add the using for you. It will detect that that is the same namespace as the class, Avalonia application 1, and so it will use the local prefix. If that were to be in a different namespace, it would use the namespace of the class. We had this featured before, but here the namespace would have been called Avalonia application 1, and that's kind of just not ideal. So it uses local. You can see hovering this, that you can see the class here. One new thing that you can do for anything actually is you can now control click. It takes a little while for Visual Studio to do it, and go to the definition of the code, both in the framework and also in your own code.
Oh, lovely.
So that works for control click and F12. The control click demo is better. One thing that I always found kind of difficult with big ZAML files is, it's not an issue here, but say you have a huge file and you're thinking, what is my data context in this place? You could write a binding, and then you could say greeting. Okay, I can see it's an Avalonia application main view model greeting. You can see that. You can do that, but now you can actually hover over an element, and it will tell you the data type at that point, which hopefully is a quality of life improvement.
I mean, that's the theme of this preview, right? It's all kind of quality of life, and setting the foundation for
foundations.
Setting the foundation for what's next, which is a bit of a theme for 2025 for us in general. Yep.
So, I mean, like I say, all things that you would expect from working on C# code was just sorely missing before. You can do things like if you add a gestures double tapped handler, you can see this part may not be working. Yes, it does. You can F12 it and it will take you to the add double tapped handler method, so you can see exactly what is being called for a particular method. And now you can as well as well, let's add a button here. Button click equals. You can as well as add a new event handler. We had this before. You can add an existing one. You can also type my special event handler, and you will have a code fix that appears here to add the event handler with the name that you specified. Small thing.
Very nice.
Yeah, another small thing. You will see here Avalonia interactivity.rooted event args. If we're actually in here and we say using Avalonia.interactivity. And now we ask to add it. It will now just say routed event args because it detects you've already imported that. Just tiny little kind of, finishing touches, hopefully, that will.
Yeah, this is really nice.
Yeah. So and because we have this, we're integrating with Roslyn now, and because we have our own kind of incremental ZAML compiler, it enables us to do all this stuff. They may seem like small fixes, but the amount of kind of infrastructure that needed to put in place to get to the place where you can do these small fixes is quite significant.
Because our extension, we've had to effectively build everything from the ground up. Like there's no services really from Microsoft within Visual Studio that we can tie into.
Even things like this preview here, this isn't something that Visual Studio provides. So you can see we have no syntax highlighting here. That's because it's really difficult to get that working with your own view, because this code isn't part of a workspace, so the Roslyn syntax highlighter doesn't do it. I'm working on getting that working. But if you
really do have to build everything from scratch in order to like
this whole language service, we've had to do the classification, the folding, just stuff like the folding here, all had to be implemented custom. It's like from the ground up this time.
So Matt Leahy has asked, does it only work with .azaml or does it work with XAML ones too?
Good question. It should work with both. I am not going to demo that.
Oh, go on. Rename it to a XAML file and let's see what happens. I'm curious.
You really want this demo to go? Let's try that at the end.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do it at the end. But, why not? Let's be brave.
It should work. Yeah. No, go on then. Let's just do it. Let's be brave.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason it's .azaml is to stop WPF from bullying us. Project loads.
We need to rename that as well. Let's try. Yes, it works.
There we go.
I've not tested that. Yeah.
Very nice. I'd be surprised if there's anyone using .xaml with their Avalonia app, but
I'm going to rename it back just because I've not tested it with this extension much. So yes, hopefully that won't curse the rest of the demo. What else do we have? I've shown you go to definition, event handler integration, someone namespace imports. Yeah, one advantage of say integrating with Roslyn is if I show you here, plot text equals binding. Oh, not result. Binding greeting. If I change this here to salutation, you see you immediately get an error here. The property greeting does not exist. And the error goes away. So there is no need to save your code and update the previewer anymore. It's integrated into Roslyn. So that all should work. Fingers crossed. Yes. Is there anything else I was going to show? There probably is. But, yes, there is. Okay, one thing that we've been missing forever, which has been just painful, whichever every other XAML editor has. Stack panel, and you edit this. It edits the end tag as well. Finally. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Editing the start tag edits the end tag. Finally. I'm sure there are. I think there were a couple of other features that I didn't write down, but they're going to be small things like that, small quality of life things.
Yeah.
We haven't touched the previewer part yet. This part here, we're working on it, but that's not made it into this release. This is because like the XAML part is kind of the foundation that you need to be able to do a nice kind of previewer and be able to detect what's changed in the XAML, what's changed in the C# code to be able to update the preview automatically. So we hope to have some demo of an improved previewer soon, but for the moment, I'm going to hide the previewer.
So on the previewer, that's just like with the code editing experience, a lot of the improvements are coming from the work that's being done for the drag and drop designer.
Yes.
Okay.
It all originated there because we wanted to be able to show code in the drag and drop designer. Although we're not sure that that's the direction we're going to go, but
yes,
we want the option.
we definitely want the option. The concern with the drag and drop designer is if you kind of tilt your head and squint your eyes, it can start to look it can start to look a little bit like an IDE, and under no circumstance do we want to be building an IDE. That's like a red rag to a bull. For Nikita, because
we got a certain way along with the designer, and we looked at it and we're like, we're building an IDE here, aren't we? We really want to build an IDE here? The answer was no.
Indeed. But yes.
So we've gone back to the drawing board a little with that, but
yeah. Well, we've got I was looking at the design work that Dalton's been doing on the designer. So we've got the beginnings of the user experience, and he's come up with some very interesting ideas. And then we've got this foundational part that we've been working on, the new XAML parser.
Can we add Bunny's question into the...
We can. Which one would you like to add?
Rename sync between XAML and CS.
There we go.
Very good question. No.
Are we going to get that?
Roslyn exposes no hooks for renaming. So Roslyn, all the APIs for renaming in Roslyn are internal. We could make it work so that you rename in XAML and the C#, and then it goes to Roslyn and does a rename operation for the XAML rename. But I would like it to be two-way. I would like that if you rename something in C#, then it's updated in the XAML. Roslyn exposes no hooks for that currently. I think it should. I think we probably should start asking if Roslyn might want to add that. But yeah, great question. Something like probably my number one feature for the XAML editor, like, you know, pie in the sky, number one feature. It would be so useful.
So another question was around so auto completions for custom resources and classes.
Not yet. That's something I plan to start on when I get back from vacation. Custom resources is easy enough if they're defined in the same file. If they're not defined in the same file, that's where we need better previewer integration, because we need to be able to query the previewer and say what resources are available at this point. And so we can display those. Classes auto completion. You can type classes dot something, but it doesn't auto complete the class name. I'm not sure how that would work, but let us know what your ideas are there. I'd be interested to hear them. All these little things are some things that I'm really interested in fixing. Yeah.
Yeah, we've a long list of features for the extension that haven't made it into the preview. So the preview is really,
it's kind of the MVP.
Yeah, it's very much the MVP, but also I think it's probably worth talking about how we're going to release it and the plan around tooling. So I think someone asked, is it already something for us to try out? Is it still in development? Well, even once it's shipped, it's still going to be in development. So that's always going to be the case, I think. Yeah. The plan is to ship it in the next few days.
We need to work out exactly how we're going to distribute it, because there's no decent way using the Visual Studio Marketplace to distribute.
Yeah. So my plan was, this is the first time Stephen and I are discussing this as well. So Accelerate customers will get this preview first. So I will add it to the portal, and then I will send out an email to all of our Accelerate customers to say it's available for you to download. It's a preview. Give us your feedback. And then once we're happy that it's working and that there's no critical issues from that preview process, then we will do the broader release. So the strategy that we have for releasing this is that everything you've seen today will be in the free community version of the extension. So the plan is that all of our tooling moving forward, so everything that we've announced for Accelerate, will have a free community version that's available to everyone. It won't have all of the features that the paid version has, but it will have more features for stuff that's available today. So for example, DevTools. The new DevTools, which has got a whole long list of new features, we'll have a community version of that, which has at least the same, if not a little bit more than the existing DevTools, and that will replace what's available today. Then the app packaging tool, Parcel, there'll be a free community version of that. Again, not all of the same features as the paid version. And then Reframe, our drag and drop designer, will be free with some limitations on some of the features that are available and the functionality. So to start with, the Accelerate customers will get stuff as available to them faster, and then the community editions will land a little later, but it won't be a huge difference. The key differentiator is the community editions, a bit like with Rider and the free versions of Rider, there's telemetry. And the only way to turn that off is to have a paid license. We're following that model. So
you may have seen a sign-in button in the Visual Studio extension. You may have noticed that. That's to sign in to turn off telemetry.
Yeah, and then as we add more features, you'll get those unlocked once you sign in as well. With that,
but I was going to say these basic features I've been showing today, the stuff that you expect from any language service, from any kind of editor, that's all going to be in the free, available to everyone for free. We're going to be gating more advanced scenarios. But
we
want the new user experience to be really smooth. So it's important to get all these kind of quality of life features out to everyone, to beginners to.
Yeah, and we'll also constantly be looking at where do we put the gate for the paid versus free features. So as time goes on, some of those paid features will move down into the free tier as we keep adding more features into the paid version. So that's the plan. So all tooling will have free community versions. If you're happy to share telemetry, then you get a lot of exciting new functionality and quality of life improvements. If you're not wanting to share telemetry and you want some extra features, then you can sign up for the paid version with Accelerate and help support what we're building, and yeah, get most importantly, get the new features. So that's going to be, I think the current plan is September for a public release of the Visual Studio extension. So that's when it will go onto the marketplace, assuming there's no showstoppers between now and then. I think DevTools will also be around September. There'll be trials available for all of this. So when you're in the IDE, you'll be able to just kick off a trial. Same with DevTools. So if you want to try out those new features, it's really easy to do so. Yeah, so that's tooling, and that's Visual Studio. That's where we're at there. Will the indie plan be enough to get all of the features? Maybe not all of the features, some of them. We haven't decided what we're going to feature gate. We have a list of features we're going to gate, but within that, we don't know where we're going to subgate, because we obviously want to see people move into the business and the enterprise tiers. It's a really difficult thing to know where to draw the line. At Xamarin, we had a differentiator. I think it was between business and enterprise for the profilers. So you needed the more expensive license to profile. And I remember saying to Joseph Hill, the COO, that I thought that was mad, because we want all Xamarin apps to be performant. And by locking the profilers behind this pay gate, it means that some developers don't have the opportunity to make sure their apps are very performant, and then it makes the whole technology stack look like it's not as fast as it could be. And then he explained the business rationale, and I could see his side of it as well. So it's there's no easy answers, but yeah, Indie will definitely have some of the features, but I don't know how we will divide that up. In terms of sales, to be perfectly frank, Indie isn't that popular. It's business that's by far the most popular tier. I think we'll keep Indie, but it's business where most folks are purchasing today. So shall we talk about, if there's no other questions about tooling, which I don't think there is, shall we talk a little bit about V12 and our plans for that?
Oh, yes.
So what's the plan for V12?
What's the plan for V12? Well, the plan, I believe, is to get a smaller release out later this year, mostly around the need to upgrade to Skier Sharp 3.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So that's what we've discussed. We've been kind of going back and forth on what to do with our general release strategy. So we've always had the policy of don't ship shit. I think it's something Dan used to say, that we won't work to arbitrary deadlines, but at the same time, again, trying to find a balance. We've wanted to have releases in line with .NET releases, so that we have a yearly release in the holidays. But when we look at what we want to achieve, or what we've wanted to achieve for V12, and then the number of months that we have available, and we're onboarding so many new people within the team, that it's probably not realistic to achieve what we want with all of the features. So we talked about punting V12 into 18 months away, maybe 2 years. But there are some things that need to happen. So Android 16 won't support Skier Sharp 2.8. So we have to be on the latest version of Skier for the latest versions of Android. And that's a breaking change. So we either say, well, we add breaking changes to V11, or we have a smaller release with V12.
With that breaking change and a couple of other smallest breaking changes that we want to do. Yeah.
exactly that. So I think there's your binding API change. There's some fixes on mobile that we want to make. I don't. The group box that we added yesterday, is that going to be a V12 feature?
Yeah, I think that would. I was saying to the guys yesterday, we don't give Avalonia releases names usually, but I think we should give Avalonia 12 a name and call it group box, and only that version will have a name, because group box is just the most important feature we've ever shipped.
It is. I'm not sure if any. I hope everyone can sense the sarcasm that is draped in that comment. Yeah, I've been. It was one of the first things I mentioned when I started using Avalonia, was that there was no group box. And when we look at the search telemetry, for the documentation, lots of people search for group box. So I was complaining yesterday over breakfast that we really do just need a group box, and the team have very kindly, after a lot of conversation, have implemented a group box, which is just I mean, it just inherits from the header
content
or the,
yeah. But so far there have been like 3 PRs fixing issues in this extremely simple control.
Yeah.
So
it's the Pandora's box.
The Pandora's box, the group box. The Pandora's group box.
So we'll have group box. That's an important feature, if not the most important feature, other than ski sharp and the binding refactors. We've talked a little bit around how we can improve responsive layouts, because we've now got media queries which came with 11.3, and I mean, Emmanuel's worked tirelessly on that for so long, and it's amazing that we have it now within Avalonia. But I think there's some ways that we can make that an easier experience for 95% of users. So we don't know if that will go into V12, but we can experiment around creating some controls to see what we can do around, am I on a phone, a tablet, or a big screen, and adjusting accordingly. And then message box. Another one of my personal pet peeves is that we haven't had a message box API. So yes. Again, I said yesterday, there's not many hills that I'm willing to die on, but group box and message box are the 2 hills that I will die on. These must be in V12.
We're going to open the Pandora's message box as well. Yeah, I mean, the reason that message boxes haven't been done is just because there are so many different ways to do it, and they're so different on each platform. So do we want native message boxes? Well, probably doesn't matter that much on Windows and Linux, but on Mac OS, you probably do want a native message box. So there are so many ways to do it, native message boxes. If you're calling into native message boxes, how do you come up with the minimal API that works for all platforms? There are no native message boxes on Linux, so you have to use managed message boxes on Linux, but they're called native message boxes. So just so many questions around it that we just need to discuss. But yeah, we do need message boxes.
Yeah, I think we discussed it a little bit yesterday, and I was saying that I think for the native message box, that should go into V13. And then for V12, we should just have a very simple API that's, if we look at the labs project, we already have exactly that. The content dialogues, which is in the Avalonia Labs repo, which was always designed to be a kind of, I was going to say breeding ground, but I don't think that's the right word for it, but it's staging area for controls. So we put them there, we work on the API, and then once we're happy with the general shape of the API and the control, we can bring it into the main repo, and that's a good example of a control that's going to graduate. So we want to hear your feedback on what you want for the future of Avalonia. So let's say V12 is going to be minimal, because we need to get it built, tested, and shipped by the end of this year, which is a tall order. but our minds are focused on V13 and what do we build for that, which will be, I think the plan is to have a preview release around this time next year, and then going stable with it when .NET 11 drops, so that we have enough time to fix any issues. So there are some questions.
Yes, some good questions.
So shall we start with a licensing one, which software licensing is one of my favorite topics in the world. Are accelerate components compatible with GPL licensing, given that you can't build without an accelerate license?
No.
Yeah, you can't share your license key. If you do, you would breach the license agreement. The components aren't even on public NuGet yet. They will be. All of accelerate will be. We're doing away with the private NuGet feed.
It requires source code anyway.
Yeah, no. But there are alternatives. So if you don't, if you want a media player, there are some varying states of quality open source versions that you can go and try and use, and the same with the WebView stuff. And as we're building more into Accelerate, yeah.
I wish we had a better answer for that, but yeah.
Well, sadly, we can't give everything away. Yeah, unless we all decide to live in a cave. So there's a question, I've just picked this one, but there's a question around Avalonia edit. So here we go. Avalonia edit maintenance state. I think this is primarily maintained by a community member rather than us.
Yep.
At least that's historically been how it's worked. I don't think that that community member works for a company that uses it within their main product. So I think it's stable. I think it will continue to be supported by that team.
My question about that is Avalon edit maintenance state. Is Avalon, is the upstream Avalon edit even maintained?
That's a good question.
I think I think we'd be quite. We should be, trying to follow the upstream Avalon edit. But yeah, we only really get involved with Avalonia edit when a customer has issues with it. Other than that, it's maintained by the community.
Yeah. I did previously say to the team, is there any value in creating a version of Avalonia Edit that sits within Accelerate that we fully support and we build extra themes for and add features? But it's so feature complete as it is that there's very little value that we can add to it to warrant bringing it into Accelerate. And yeah, so it's still getting love as far as I know. Are there plans to add documentation using Avalonia.markup.declarative or another markup language instead of ZAML?
Documentation using, or documentation for?
Yeah. So docs for the C# markup stuff that I know you're a fan of.
Mike?
Good. So we've hired our first full-time technical writer. They will be joining us soon. We have a lot of work to do just on the XAML side of things. And the C# markup side of things, that's another community project that exists within the Avalonia org for historical reasons rather than us building it. So no one employed by the company is building or maintaining that.
No, that's from the days before the company existed. So
yeah, it should probably exist within the community org rather than ours, but it's just there are some projects that just exist there for historical reasons. So my view, and I know everyone on the team has slightly different views to this, but my view is that C# isn't the right language for doing a markup UI. You can make something, like you can write a lot of extension methods and make something look a little bit like Swift UI, but the technologies are so fundamentally different that it's just a bit cursed.
I do a lot of Avalonia outside of ZAML. I'm possibly famously not a huge ZAML fan, and you can write Avalonia in C# without any extra libraries.
Yeah, but the markup approach is a very specific way of creating your C# definitions for your UIs. I don't personally love it. I think that there are some more interesting approaches that if we were to look at a XAML alternative, then I don't think I would lean that far towards just a C# language.
No.
Like a set of extensions, I would look somewhere else. And that's on Nikita's list of things to explore when he has some time.
I do think that though, just like kind of fragmenting things at this point, we'd just be biting off more than we can chew, you know, in creating another markup language as well as XAML, as well as C#. Like redoing all of this stuff that I've just done for XAML for another markup language.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
I definitely don't. I don't see the value in creating a new language from scratch. I think that would be insanity.
It's something I dream of. I would love. I don't like XAML. I would love a better language, but it's just not practical.
I mean, you've then got. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of institutional knowledge from XAML developers, and I think if we're going to go down alternative markup, it needs to be something where there's an existing ecosystem and existing learning resources that allow for transferable skills. If we're building something from scratch, then, well, I would just ask why. Why would we want to do that?
It's the perfect thing to be a community project. We're not like WPF, where you can't do certain things outside of XAML. Every single thing you can do in XAML, you can do outside of XAML. So it would be completely possible for community members, interested people, just experiment. And if something comes up that gains popularity, great. Yeah. But there's no reason to stop. For example, any examples of alternative markup languages, for example, WPF, have to compile to WPF because certain features aren't available have to compile to XAML because certain features aren't available outside of XAML.
I do think, and this question here kind of brings it home, any plans on making dynamic resources easily accessible from C# code? There are areas within our API where it is a little bit verbose to ditch XAML and go the C# route. There is opportunity for us to improve certain functionality so that it's easier to consume from C#.
This is a good example.
Yeah. So yes, we do want to improve that. One of the things for the docs is that once we've done a full overhaul and got them into a place where we're happy on the XAML side, we want to loop back and do it on the C# side, but not the markup C#, but just to see how would you do this in vanilla C# if you want to.
I think that would really improve people's understanding of how you can use Avalonia without XAML.
Yeah,
it's a little bit more verbose because you have curly brackets on new lines, but other than that, it's almost the same.
Yeah. So another question, what about supporting custom expression evaluations in bindings?
Would love to do that, yes. But writing our own DSL for bindings, it's just a lot of work. It would be a DSL implemented in Avalonia. And then you have the question, we're wanting to support C# better. How would that work in C#? I would love it. A very limited expression evaluation. I'm not sure what that would look like. and I think it may open a whole can of worms. But in theory, yeah, I'd love to investigate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that a little bit as well internally.
It's another one of those things that for years we've wanted to look into, but just not had. There have always been kind of more important things to do than just spend time investigating a pie in the sky feature. There were kind of concrete things that needed fixing or implementing.
Yeah. So another question, I can take this one. Does Avalonia support mobile platform features like vibration, location, and Bluetooth? Yes. So on iOS and Android, we sit on top of .NET iOS and .NET Android, which used to be Xamarin. And so Xamarin effectively got renamed Maui. And if you look at the Maui plugins, I think they're still called plugins. They might be called Essentials. They get renamed. Everything's always renamed, but it's the same thing. That should all just work. So there's nothing Avalonia specific to calling into features like vibration or location or Bluetooth functionality. We did for a little while. In fact, we forked it and started work on it, but then we decided against going down that route, have our own fork of, I think we called it Avalonia Essentials, just to make using those packages slightly easier from within an Avalonia app. But there's no reason you can't use the Maui version. It doesn't have a dependency on Maui. It's just got a terrible name. It should be Net iOS Essentials and Net Android Essentials, but naming's hard. We get it wrong all the time. Is there a plan to support generic hosts for all platforms? So I guess that's like the approach of if you're building a Blazor app, for example. I think Maui might be doing this as well.
I have no idea. Nikita has opinions on this. I don't remember what they are. I remember it being discussed. I don't remember personally what the outcome of that discussion was.
Yeah, I think we all had slightly different takes on it, if memory serves me correctly. I think the consensus was it was not something we were going to do anytime soon. But we may look at it again if there's a ton of demand for it. When I think about where we allocate resources, this kind of feature, it to me is really, it's like a vitamin. It's not a painkiller. Like the way that you stand up your app is not something that you're changing every day. So having an engineer go off and spend time on making that work versus going in and fixing stuff that impacts everyone every day, I think that's a more useful.
I think if it opened the way to fixing things that were, or doing things that are impossible now, then fine. But from what I understand, you can still use the generic hosts with Avalonia. You just have to write a few lines of code. If I'm correct, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure, but
I think I've seen some examples of people using it. Yeah, well, I'll ask someone to take another look at it, but I mean, it's probably just a couple of extra classes and a template, but we'll have a look. Right, let's see. Are there any other questions? People talking about Avalonia Edit.
Mr. Lacey has a great XAML alternative proposal.
He does. Mr. Lacey is a very smart man. That would be why.
I've seen it. We have discussed it. It's nice.
Yeah. Any plans to support design time visibility properties for components?
Design time visibility property for components. I don't think there would be any problem with that. I can't think of a reason that I've ever needed it, but yeah, I don't think that would be a problem. Give us a good use case and I think we can implement it.
So somebody else has asked, I'm going to go through all the questions, even if they're a little challenging. I'm not quite sure what this one means. But why wasn't the tool designer designed to make working on Avalonia easier? Is that the tool panel within Visual Studio?
The toolbox, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, the toolbox.
Well, first of all, if that's what we're talking about, first of all, the Visual Studio is just a previewer. We don't have drag and drop. So we could add Avalonia controls to the toolbox, probably. I think we could. But you would have nowhere to drop them. So
at the moment, but you will eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a really good question. Can you break down why it is universally so hard to build a data grid component with so many features? We've talked about this for hours.
I have spent so much of my life on tree data grid. My estimation is that the complexity of a fully featured data grid control with tree data grid control, even just a basic data grid control, I would compare its complexity to the rest of Avalonia, the rest of the core of Avalonia. Nikita compares it more to an operating system. I think he may be exaggerating. It's as complicated as Avalonia itself, I found. I got quite a way on it with the tree data grid, but to add all of the features, I would say my guess would be 3 man-years of work, maybe, to get a fully featured data grid performant with everything in there. It's a lot of work, and there's a reason that you don't see data grids being, third-party, non-paid data grids being produced. Point me at one that isn't made by a huge corporation, and I will be impressed.
Yeah. The data grids are typically the control that organizations are buying the whole suite of controls for. So if you're going out and buying Dev Express, it's normally because you want their data grid, and everything else is a nice to have.
My advice to you, Tetties, is try and write one. You'll find out quickly enough. I did, to my eternal regret.
and then gave it away.
Yeah, and then gave it away. I did enjoy writing it, but there was just so much left to do on it, and it's just so much work.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth sharing what our thoughts are with the tree data grid at the moment, because I think we've flip-flopped internally, and I think the messaging externally around what we're doing with it has been somewhat confused. I mean, I've been confused internally about what we're doing.
I don't even know what the latest decision is.
So from the last call that we had, the decision was that we go ahead with tree data grid moving into Accelerate, and that we would continue to add features to it that are requested from the paying customers on an ad hoc basis.
Fix bugs.
We could obviously fix bugs. And the Accelerate sales will continue to fund the development of it, because the recent Microsoft layoffs, for example, have given us opportunities to scoop up some former Microsoft employees, and we've been speaking to some that have experience with these types of controls, and they are extraordinarily talented, but also extraordinarily expensive to hire. And when folks come and work for us, we don't want to do like a 3 or 6 month contract. We want them to come and work for us for years. And yeah, it's difficult to justify the salaries of the folks that can build these types of controls. Just in general, like it's a risk for the business to take, hoping that there'll be enough people to buy Accelerate to fund. And when we talked about the indie business and enterprise tier of Accelerate earlier, that was in relation to Visual Studio. But one of the things I've been thinking is that if we're building a data grid from scratch, and we've hired someone on, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do that, it cannot be an €149 tier, because it's just not financially viable. Like, the total addressable market is too small. It has to be 1,000 plus.
We would need to be selling like so many licenses to make it.
So there's still a lot of consideration that we need to have around data grids. They are so important for a mature platform. So right now, the Accelerate plan with Tree Data Grid is we bring that into Accelerate, we fix bugs, we keep adding features that are highly requested. We use our community, Avalonia UI.community, to gather the feedback and have people vote on what they want to see added. And then we continue.
Certain features are so huge that
they're going to take a long time to come through.
And also there are certain things that need to change with the Tree Data Grid infrastructure. Ideally, we kind of do a V2 of it.
Yeah. Well, I was imagining that we will do a full rewrite of a data grid at some point. And if we had unlimited amounts of cash, I think who I would be hiring in an instant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But one we're working on trying to fix.
Yeah.
So there are some more questions. So one more question regarding tooling: is it possible to show C# XML documentation for members, events, and values in the XAML editor?
Yes. Did I not just? Is that not what I just demoed?
I think I saw it. Yeah, we've got the XML docs available on the tooltip.
It's only the summary that's shown, like in C# when you're editing. But yeah, that's I hopefully demoed that earlier in the.
I think you did.
Okay.
Any updates on Wayland support? Yeah, we're going to do it. That was the last update I got from Nikita. I asked him about it, and he said yes, it's coming. So fear not, Wayland is happening. Any plans to make learning paths specifically for devs coming from WinForms and not WPF? Oh, learning paths. So yeah, well, this comes down to documentation, which has been our biggest struggle, I think. We've got Luke joining us. He's a very talented technical writer. I'm very excited. Yeah, finally. Finding good technical writers is what's like looking for rocking horse shit. It's just very hard to find them. Yeah, I mean, we went through so many CVs looking for the right person, and I mean, it's taken us years to find someone that we're happy with. So the docs is getting a full rewrite, and a key part of that is to not make the assumption that you already know WPF. We can't assume that you know any technology or any specific form of technology. So docs is a big part of it. The visual designer will play a part of this as well. The WinForms approach to building apps is, you drag a button on, you double click it, you add some code to the event handler. That model of drag and drop, double click code will work in the new visual designer. So that it will work. You look less convinced.
You've been having conversations about how it should work, because I think everyone knows that the WPF drag drop experience is not great. Where they kind of simulate WinForms by setting margins.
You're talking about like the absolute positioning. Yeah. Okay.
Positioning and by you drag a control and it like sets a fixed size and stuff. We want to kind of avoid those issues while still making them possible for people who do come from WinForms. But yeah.
Well, this falls into the comment I made earlier about the responsive layout control. That will form a part of it. But yeah, when I say drag and drop onto a form, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a cursed absolute positioning view. I've been advocating that we should allow you to do that if you are an animal, but we should make it slightly uncomfortable for you. So you have to hold down some difficult and RSI inducing key combination to be able to do it. Yeah. But if you're
something similar to the key combination for taking a screenshot on Mac, I think would be.
Well, that's quite easy. Shift Command F4.
Maybe screen recording. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So we will. Yeah, the drag and drop is a part of making that experience easier. If you look at how is it Glide or Glide with GDK, how that works, everything has to go into a vertical or a horizontal container, and that gives you some guarantees that it's going to work well as you resize the screen. So this is, our designer has got some mock-ups on how that would look, but the general idea of drag, drop, double-click, code will be available. So yeah, that should help.
Errol has an old proof of concept for Silverlight for something that is very much along the lines of what we were thinking as well.
Did I see Luke appear in the chat?
You did. I said, it's Luke.
Hello, Luke.
Hi, Luke.
We were just talking about you. Your ears must be burning. We're very, very excited to have you join. Awesome. Let's have a look at some more questions. What about supporting applying styles to controls that are created dynamically by item presenter within a control theme? I have no idea on that one.
It does not work now because they are part of the logical tree. You can. 1 second. I thought, it's so long since I looked at this. I thought we did have a solution. I can't tell you what it is right now. It would take me a couple of minutes to remember, but I think we have a solution for that. I'm sure I've done it.
We'll follow up.
Yeah, we'll follow up on that one.
Another question is again about Wayland supporting V12. Many composited, I can't even say it.
Compositors.
Compositors, there we go. I was getting stuck on the P. Are moving away from X Wayland. Some have it disabled by default. Some don't even have it implemented. I don't. So we've talked about this with Nikita. Compositors, that's how I was trying to say it. So we're going to have support for Wayland probably with V12, but for embedded devices. So that's what Nikita's promised me. Wayland in general seems to be a subject that causes Nikita to get quite animated. And Nikita is a very calm individual, so we will have full support for Wayland. It may not be with V12, it may be with V13. But V12 is really, as we said earlier, it's about Skier Sharp 3.x, ensuring that we've got that future support for Android 16. A couple of other changes here and there. The group box we mentioned earlier, that's a huge engineering challenge for us. 3 PRs to date. But yeah, Wayland is obviously important. Embedded is more important for us on that at the moment. We've made some firm commitments to others about that. So yes, work in progress. I think that's item 3 on the list I've given Nikita of things to work on. Thoughts on expanding Avalonia templates to include prism.avalonia? It's a good question. It's followed up by as an alternative to the reactive UI templates. So for total transparency, we're going to be removing reactive UI samples from the docs, and we're in the process already of replacing RX UI samples with Community Toolkit, just because it's such an opinionated way of doing MVVM that it makes it more difficult for others. So our docs need to have some opinions to them to help people on a happy path. And when we give folks too many options, it complicates that noob experience. The challenge with the templates would be who would maintain it. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, we've got the template wizard within Visual Studio that Danielle did for us, which was a fork of another project, which I think forked another one. We could potentially add it there. I'm not opposed to it. The challenge is documenting it in a way that ensures that the happy path for beginners isn't too complex, because choice has a paralysing effect.
And maintenance, because none of us use Prism, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't. I've not used Prism in many years.
Yeah, many years.
VS Code, question mark. I mean, we have tons of questions about VS Code.
We have a VS Code extension.
Yes, we do.
As I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were here for the demo earlier. The new ZAML parser and language services are abstracted out in a way that it should be simple to put them into a language server. That would give you the same ZAML completion, code fixes, hover over behavior, I think, as well, that is present in Visual Studio. So I would love to get that rolled out. The only issue there is that the language service protocol is very loosely specified, and I've heard a lot of nightmare stories in just kind of getting everything working the way it should with that. I think there's a framework that we can use from OmniSharp that will probably ease that. Need to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other point with VS Code. We've tried to make sure that we don't have a dependency on the C# dev kit. Otherwise, you fall into the trap of potentially needing the Visual Studio subscription. So it's not as free as it used to be to do C# in Visual Studio Code. So that complicates things a little bit.
And another technical issue is that now the new XAML parser is using Roslyn, so it needs to load a Roslyn workspace in its own process. So you've potentially got a Roslyn workspace in the C# dev kit and a Roslyn workspace in the XAML extension. If you've got a large solution, that can become quite a resource hog. And as far as I know, there's no way for us to kind of integrate with the C# dev kit to use the same Roslyn instance. Probably acceptable, but it's all stuff we need to explore and questions we need to ask.
Yeah, I'd like us to do a little bit more on the VS Code extension, but it's not. I mean, when we look at the numbers, it's just not. It's not that popular. Most folks are using Visual Studio or Rider. It could be a chicken and egg problem. It could just be that the extension is so bad that no one wants to use it.
The XAML parser in particular is so old in that Well,
Yeah,
the
I mean, it was
whole thing
it
is
was
based on code from 2014, you know. So
yes, and then it was kind of thrown together, and it's now mostly unmaintained because the chap that built it for us went and it was only a temporary gig, and he went and got another one, got a full-time job. He was a former colleague I used to work with at Xamarin before Microsoft. When he got laid off, we picked him up to do a little project between finding another full-time job somewhere else. So we've answered number 2, WebView on Linux. Well, that's a challenging one in and of itself, because Linux is a disaster of an operating system.
Right. So leaving the politics of Linux aside, the issue is that there is no like standard web browser on Linux. On Windows, you have an operating system supplied web browser. On macOS, you have an operating system supplied web browser. You don't have that on Linux. The closest, I've not been involved with this, so I may be wrong in the technical details here, but hopefully I've got it mostly right. The closest thing to a standard WebView control on Linux would be the one shipped with GTK, I believe. To do that, you need to integrate with the GTK event loop. And Avalonia would need to either use the GTK event loop or integrate with it somehow. I believe we have support already for showing a WebView dialog on Linux. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that way we don't have to integrate with the GTK message loop, message pump. But embedding it into Avalonia is problematic. Yes.
Yeah. The only the best way to solve that problem of WebView on Linux is to ship Ceph. So we take Chrome and we bundle that up, and you've got a 200 plus meg dependency. But from a ecosystem perspective, that puts us in a very challenging position, because there's .NET Browser who have built for Avalonia. So they already sell that today. And one of the things that I think we have to be very careful of as stewards of the platform and the owners of the ecosystem is to give space to those that are building within the ecosystem. I don't think it's a very good look for us to see someone enter with a very useful control and then for us to just go and replicate it. So there are options if you need a WebView on Linux that isn't that native dialog that's available within Accelerate. You could purchase a license to .NET Browser, and you could use their very, very good Ceph implementation that works perfectly with Avalonia. I think that I can understand why people would like us to have that just built in, but from an ecosystem management perspective, it makes me uncomfortable stepping on the toes of folks that are building for our ecosystem, and it sends the wrong message to those that are looking at our ecosystem and thinking, well, maybe we should build for Avalonia, and then seeing us just go and compete. That's not a good long-term strategy. So yeah, it's a balance. Okay, this is something I've seen asked a few times, both on Twitter and Reddit, and the answer is no. So the Rider extension isn't built by us. It's built by a JetBrains employee. The only thing that you get with the Rider extension, I think, is templates. And in fact, that might not even be included in the extension, but it's the previewer, it's the main thing that you're getting there. All of the IntelliSense, the jumped definitions, all of the code editing goodness that you love from building with Avalonia in Rider is built into Rider. You don't need any extensions for that to just work. It's just native to the IDE. We've had no involvement in that. That's just from JetBrains. They use Avalonia, and so we've benefited from their investment in the tooling. So less features in Rider. Well, that would be a question for JetBrains. We're just focused on kind of trying to close that gap a little bit between the experience of Visual Studio and the experience that folks have in Rider. We're never going to close it entirely. Again, coming back to the ecosystem, like the thing that I just said, I don't want to be stepping on the toes of JetBrains and copying every feature that they have within Rider. I don't think that that's the right thing to do. And I don't think we can do it either. I mean, you know, that's their bread and butter. That is what they do. And if you want Rider, use Rider, but we've got a long way to go with Visual Studio to keep improving things. So yeah, no change there. Visual Studio creates a ZAML and .azaml.cs files with the wrong namespace. Is that fixed as well? I'm not sure I've seen that as an issue.
No. Visual Studio now, since Visual Studio 2022 just uses the .NET New templates, I believe. So yeah, not sure about that. Yeah, sorry.
But you'll be able to try it soon. And then this question is, what top features would you like to see the community help out with on Avalonia? Where can I help out?
A data grid.
I think the most useful thing the community can be doing is, well, there's several things. I mean, there's telling us what they need. That is helpful in itself. It being documented what folks actually want. If you're going to get engaged and contribute, make sure that you've written some tests, that there's XML documentation. If you wrote some documentation, at least like jotted down enough so that we can expand it and flesh it out and have some proper docs, that would be amazing. Make sure that your PR has a good description. Yeah, like there's so many, it's kind of death by 1,000 cuts with a lot of contributions, that there'll be some really good code, but it doesn't have the XML docs, or it doesn't have any docs, and there's no tests, and it's like, well, what do we do? Do we take the good code, or do we reject it and push back? So yeah, the community can help us by making it easier for us to review PRs and get stuff through the PR queue.
I don't think people realize quite how much work reviewing a PR takes on a project like Avalonia. It can take hours and hours to review a PR.
Yeah.
If you have written a good description of the issue, if you have unit tests and things are organized in a way where I can, you know, check out the commit previous to it and see the unit test failing, move that up to the commit that fixes it and see it fixing it. Yeah, a good description is my number one ask for how the community can help out with contributions. In terms of features, that's kind of a difficult one, because often I think people who write features are unprepared for how long it takes to get a feature merged in modern Avalonia. It's not like it was like 5 or 6 years ago where we were like, yeah, we'll merge it, we'll sort it out later. You know, we have API guarantees, we have documentation guarantees for new code, we need tests, we have a lot higher bar. And like, if you look at Emmanuel's, Emmanuel works for us, but if you look at Emmanuel's container queries PR, for example, which is an example of a new feature, there are like 80 comments on there. It took months and months and months, and that's with him also discussing with us in our company chat. So I think the first thing, I'm not going to say what top features, but if you are interested in picking a feature, make sure that you've done your work before opening a PR for us. You know, like you've kind of investigated the issue, the thing you're fixing, that you've spoke to team members to make sure that we agree that you be going in the right direction, and yeah, write some good documentation. But apart from that, what I would love to see the community doing is experimenting with stuff. Like we were talking about the alternative markup earlier. We're not Microsoft. Everything doesn't have to come from us. I would love to see the community experimenting with things like that. We can't do everything. We can't do everything. I would love to see, like, yeah, just things like alternative markup languages coming from the community would be so interesting. Personally,
there's already a ton of exciting stuff that the community are doing. I mean, we've got a huge community, a genuinely huge community. When you look at, I know GitHub stars are a vanity metric, but if you look at them, it's over 28,000, which is the most starred repo in the .NET UI. I mean, we have to get very specific on the niche that we exist within, but we are the most starred within that very specific niche. The just general usage is incredibly high. When you look at what people are building with it, it amazes me. You know, from the commercial side, we see the leads coming in for people that want support or development services, and the stuff that people are building is just incredible. So there is a lot of experimentation occurring, but it would be nice to see more of it on GitHub. And
yeah, I think that's a personal thing of mine, more rather than, you know, something we've it's not something we've discussed. It's just something that I enjoy. I enjoy seeing.
Yeah, I think so. I'll show you this. Just take the pressure off shoulders. I mean, to be frank, the Devolution sponsorship is, you know, I don't think there was we've never really felt huge amounts of pressure. We've been in a very good position. It's a small team, but, you know, financially stable and growing within our means. But that meant that a lot of us were working very long hours and wearing lots of hats and really doing more than the team could handle. We've grown the team a lot this year. The Devolution's sponsorship is helping us grow the team even more. We've got 2 new senior engineers starting next month. So no, this month. We're in August. First one starts on Monday. Second one starts a week Monday. We're still chatting to some other engineers to potentially come and join us. So the pressure is, I mean, we're pretty relaxed. As I say, the focus for us, and this has always been our mantra of, don't ship shit. Like it is ready when it's ready. We will take our time to make sure that we build something that we're proud of and that's good. Reliability and performance, they're not sexy, but they are very important features. And so we just keep on working to that. Perfect. Well, I don't think there's any other questions. We have been talking for a long time.
Yeah.
So we should do these more often. Let's have the next break to not be 2 years. And maybe September or October, we'll do another one. Show where we're at. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And any questions, just ping us on the socials and we'll do our best to answer. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day, night, morning. Bye-bye.